Yo, you know what time it is. It's your boy Trevor David Jones, back up at it with another edition of TDJ Reviews. As you can see in the title, it's Ironheart. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let's do it. Okay. I'm sure some of y'all have been creeping around the internet, kind of looking at what's going on. Overall, a pretty bizarre show. That's a good word I can use for it, bizarre. It has its upsides, it does. It's not all bad, but overall, fairly strange. So you know how we do, let's start with the positives. The visual effects. As far as the show goes, I can't really take anything away with the visual effects. They're good, they're solid. Like, the way the suit looks, I liked it. It has the technology in there. There's nothing that really looks low budget or like overtly just not that good. So yeah, whenever she like takes off or comes in with the suit, it looks good. Ezekiel Staines, bolstered body. It looks great, it looks fine. As far as the visual effects of the show, there's nothing I can really take away from it. So yeah, that's a positive. The music. The music is definitely one of the standouts of the show, if not the standout. A good mix of tracks, a lot of hip hop in there, some like alternative, some electronic. The music always fit with, the mood of what was going on. The closing credits song, Alanis Morissette, maybe the most like famous musical moment from the show. Yeah, I mean, the music was solid. They clearly put some work into it, some thought into it, scene per scene. So that's a positive. And the comedy I'd say is a positive as well. Marvel/Disney has really been dialing it back on the quips, like the quippiness of the whole shows, of their properties. So I really appreciated that because they took it way too far, kind of at the end of like phase 4 and stuff like that. It was a solid comedy, nice normal jokes, some one-liners in there. Don't clap at me. Yeah, it was funny. And like I said, they dialed it back on the quips and that whole type of humor, so I appreciated it. I thought it was a legitimately funny show. I actually laughed out loud in a few parts. Okay. Now on to the room for improvement, okay? Now on to the rooms for improvements. Number 1, most importantly, Riri Williams herself. Riri is the biggest room for improvement / pitfall of this entire show. Just her character. And it's crazy because she's the main character of the show. She's the hero. So how could she be the biggest room for improvement? But she is. From top to bottom, her character just doesn't make any sense. And it's crazy because, like I said, the show has good moments. I watched every episode and I was actually kind of like geeked, kind of excited to see what was going on. But Riri, just herself, is just has too many issues. So let's start with episode 1. Starting at the beginning, her character has a complete reversal of what was established in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, my favorite Marvel movie. She was a hero. She helped Shuri save the world. She knows the difference between right and wrong. She's literally helped, she fought Namor, so on and so forth. But now she finds it appropriate to league up with criminals for a few extra bucks. The whole scene is weird because, again, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, this he's on the underground. He's a criminal. She's dapping up like, yeah, I could use that cash. Okay. And the show kind of continues along those lines. And I could go deeper into detail, but you should watch the show, in theory. But yeah, she just goes down kind of a criminal path while kind of deluding herself into what she's doing. And then, makes multiple decisions that belie or go against her like established intelligence, like multiple things along the way. Making the AI, but then acting confused about where it came from. Like, she hooked it up to her brainwaves. Obviously, it comes from your memories or from your mind. You know this. You built another Iron Man suit. You're up on game, like The show intentionally just made her clueless at way too many junctions, and like it made her powerful at spots too, because when it came down to a fight, you really couldn't beat her when it really came down to it. She's in an Iron Man suit. I mean, give me a break. But and she even fought without an Iron Man suit and survived a near-death, incident. But it's just, her character is just all over the place, and really I wouldn't say leaning toward being a criminal, but just like didn't really come off as heroic. And then in the final scene of the show, when the writers had the opportunity to like finally make her a hero, when she's dapping up with Mephisto and is about to like have the option to make the deal with the devil or not, and they trick you into thinking she didn't do it, you're like, okay, finally she redeems herself. This show has some sort of saving grace. She, to what we know at the end of the show, just goes ahead and like daps up with Mephisto and makes a deal with the devil and like continues on like that. I paused and I was like, what am I watching? Like, what's the takeaway message from this? And who is this character? Because it's hard to think of her really as a hero. Just what's shown in the show, not even making no inferences or trying to go too deep into it, just what was presented scene by scene, you're like, what kind of character is she? So the biggest room for improvement is Riri Williams herself. Second is the story, which bleeds right into Riri Williams, which, comes from the character. The story, Marvel has a history of heroic stories, like Iron Man being in the cave with the scrap and like discovering, having this spiritual awakenings of seeing his weapons used, not how he intended them, or he really hadn't seen them used like actively at all. So to see that was like, yo, this is crazy. And the list goes on and there's multiple heroes who have like this arc of like awakening or they become a hero. And that's the story. The story of this is Riri comes back from Wakanda 6 months to a year after Wakanda and discovers she needs more money to make her suits. And I do like the fact that they made her like a young character, meaning she doesn't think in ways that like fully grown adults might, like with real logic. She's like 19 in the show. So I kind of like that. She's like, oh, I need money or I need to be like the best. It's very like grating her character when she like states these motivations, but also it's kind of like it's like true to life. Like she's a kid. They have, they don't really think at like the highest possible level. So I thought that was actually pretty appropriate. But story wise, so she needs money. That's what she decides she needs. And that's the root of her problem. It's not saving anybody. It's not protecting anyone per se. She just needs more money. Sounds kind of like a villain, right? So she gets kicked out of school at MIT because it turns out in 4 years she hasn't made any progress towards graduation at all. Maybe hadn't taken any classes or passed them, which is crazy because we know how smart she is. And she's been building her suits, or all sorts of technology actually, including a vibranium detection machine from Wakanda Forever. That's tight. So she gets kicked out of school because there's an accident that goes too far, like shuts off the power grid, injures the dean. Yeah, see how that works out if you were to do that. She gets kicked out. So she's like, I don't really want a job because I don't want to work with anyone. And, but I still need money. So she's kind of going through this process when she's at the counter of a auto shop, I guess selling some parts or trying to get some cash. One of the criminals shows up, drops the stacks and like pays for it and blah, blah, blah. And she goes and joins up with them because they can give her what she needs as money. So the plot progresses from there. So that's the initial motivation. Now she's with the criminals, decides like they're a little too dangerous. So she needs to figure out how to save herself. And the plot becomes how to get herself out of that situation. And it just advances like that. Now, I'm not saying it's not valid because again, if you were like young and 19 and kind of like living your life, it may be something kind of like that would happen where the factors that led you into it really don't make that much sense. But, younger kids, they're kind of different. Like I said, they don't really think perfectly logically like a full grown adult would. But the fact that this was made into a story, like an adapted story that people are supposed to watch and take something away from, that's where it kind of like gets off the rails a little bit. Like, what's the takeaway from this? You know what I mean? Like, what's the real story? Especially considering how they decided to wrap it up with her literally making a deal with the devil. So it's like, what's the message? You know what I mean? So I'm not saying this couldn't happen, especially with a character that young, but to broadcast this and be like, watch this, it's like, you're going to pick somebody else or something else. So the second room for improvement is the story. The third room for improvement is the connectedness with the wider MCU. Now, this may be actually, strangely enough, no pun intended, one of the more connected MCU properties ever made, like that they ever put out. It's got Riri coming from Wakanda Forever. They mention vibranium. They mention Shuri. She is directly a continuation of Iron Man. When they get to the magic and stuff, the people came from Kamertage. Like, it has all these elements, it's connected. But the way it's executed, to me, just seemed a little like it was lacking. Although they did bring in Kamertage more so than anything next to Doctor Strange. Literally, like, it's magic is one of the key elements of the show if you watch the show. The way they did it when it was revealed, I was like, don't just suddenly drop Kamertage like that or blatantly. It seemed shoehorned in, which is wild because the Hood had been using magic the whole show. But when they finally get to Kamertage and they revealed, you know, how Riri was going to go about solving this, it was just like, okay. It just seemed to come out of nowhere, even in the context of the show. So that's kind of weird. So it might be the most connected Marvel property, but the way it's connected just didn't seem very like, it didn't like flow naturally. So take from that what you will. So now, you know, when I do the reviews of a final series, I have the best character and the best actor, just to give some shine, some shout out to the positive elements of the show. So the best character, in my opinion, in the show, believe it or not, was Ezekiel Stane. I liked Ezekiel Stane. He's kind of weird, you know. He was one of the only characters with a real arc, like a true arc. He started off meek with like all this nervousness around him, and they explained why. Because he didn't want to turn out like Obadiah Stane, like his father, so he literally like wouldn't make anyone mad or wouldn't offend anyone. We saw how that worked out. Riri kind of woke him up, said, yo, you need to stand up for yourself. That was cool. And so he did. He cut the petunias, the yellow flowers in Homegirl's lawn. Cool. Zeke woke up. So he then makes a friend he starts to trust. And he really did trust Riri, legitimately. Gave her the biotech. He's like, we're friends, right? She's like, yeah. He's like, you got me. I trust you. I'm not even going to really dig too deep into it. You're not going to get me locked up. She got him locked up. Straight to the pen. National or like regional news, maybe national news because of how famous his father was, you know, like deep in the game, you know, Howard Stark, Obadiah Stane, all them, Stark Enterprises. So he's like this is like a big news story when he got locked up. So he has like this whole like traumatic experience, and they made sure to show that in the show, which leads him not really to becoming a villain, but just open to any way to like get out of jail. Okay. Like he's like, I'm not doing this. So when the Hood shows up, it's very opportune and very appropriate, you know, that he takes his offer. Not to become a criminal per se, but he's like, I just got to get up out of here. And he did. So yeah, Zeke continues on. He gets the bio upgrades, super strong, stronger than Riri in her suit, maybe even stronger than her in her second suit. So he's like that. He's about that life now. But doesn't want to keep being a villain. Zeke Stane was great. I thought his character rode that fine line between like, you know, I'm kind of like self-interested, but still altruistic. It's hard to really call him a villain. You know what I mean? Even though he was like fighting Riri at the end. I like Zeke Stane's character. He was one of the only characters with an actual arc. The best actor. The runner-up actually is Sacha Baron Cohen, aka Borat, as Mephisto. It's Sacha Baron Cohen. He's an actual actor. You know what I mean? He's an OG. This is one of the things that Marvel has been doing for a long time, and they can still do it when they want to, is get a real actor that you wouldn't necessarily expect in that position, but when you see it, it's perfect. And they did this with Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto. You're like, yo! I actually didn't even know who it was until the credits rolled. I knew his face. I was like, but when I saw the name in the credits, I was like, of course, Borat. And it was perfect. If he had had more screen time, because he's only in the season finale, he would have been, I would say, almost a runaway best actor, but he was only in one episode. So because of that, the best actor to me is Alden Ehrenreich as Zeke Stane. I thought he was the best actor in the show. He had an understated skill to everything he was doing. Comedy, kind of very sharp wit. All of his lines were delivered with purpose. His emotional beats, like you felt them when he changed from meek to standing up for himself to actually good to trusting Riri to getting burned to like going to jail to I need to get out of here to now I'll fight you. You know, I'm not going to kill you, which was really cool. They showed his altruism to so on and so forth. Yeah, man, Alden Ehrenreich, aka the OG Han Solo, now Ezekiel Stane. Best actors, I liked his role in the show. He was funny. Yeah, I really thought he was appropriate and good in this role. So takeaways. You know, I got to do those. My main takeaway, believe it or not, from this show even though it had good visual effects, you know, the action, when they did have action, was solid. Good music, legitimately funny in parts. My takeaway from this show is that Marvel straight up does not know what to do anymore. Like, they don't know. And it could be Disney. It could be that they've put themselves in this corner where they have to put out these Disney Plus shows. You know, I have my opinions. I think it's because Stan Lee's not around anymore. He was a consultant on all the movies, like up until his passing. He would watch them and even be on set and make sure they had that Marvel feeling, that they followed the Marvel formula. You know, Robert Downey Jr. was a key anchor. There's a lot of things that could have led to this, and there's a reason why. But my ultimate takeaway is that Marvel just doesn't know what to do anymore, or they're not willing to, because they know it's not that hard. It's not that hard to write a story that just makes sense. We all know that. So it's either they don't know what to do or they're not willing to. But that's my takeaway from this. Like I said, it had a lot of solid moments. I watched all 6 episodes and got some enjoyment out of it. I thought it was pretty cool. But when you just break down the story and the character of Riri Williams, it's just like, they don't know what to do anymore, or they're not willing to do it for whatever, who knows what reasons it could be. Like I said in one of my first videos on this channel, I came up in the nerd game through comic books, because you're different kind of nerds, video game nerds, anime nerds, card game nerds, all sorts of stuff. But for me, it started with comic books, okay? So what that means is, and I said this in one of my earliest videos, I'm going to read comic books no matter what for the rest of my life. Whether or not all these movies completely bomb, just tank. And it seems so unlikely when I said that. I was like, it was like a far off occurrence, like a real what if, you know, if these tank somehow and blah, 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 I'll still read comics. But kind of here we are. If all these TV/movie properties tank and it's like the MCU is a distant memory, I will always read comics. I read comics before this even started. I love comic books, you know, just straight up. So this hasn't tainted my love of comic books, comic book characters, art, and stuff like that. And I'll actually still watch these properties. I'm going to watch Fantastic Four. I'm going to watch Doomsday. But I've almost been convinced that I'm going to watch them just for the entertainment, to see the characters. And I'll never lose hope. Maybe they can turn it around. You never know. I'm not a naysayer. Oh, Marvel's cooked. Maybe not. Maybe they can still turn it around because they've done it before. But in the present, they don't know what to do anymore. Like, what kind of story was this? Really tell me. So, yeah. I'm going to watch all the movies coming out. I'm going to still watch the shows. But it's more of like from an era of entertainment. Like, oh, this is cool, some action scenes. Versus back in the original MCU, you know, the Endgame, the pre-Endgame days, Iron Man, all that stuff. Man, we used to watch those movies, these shows, and get geeked. I mean, like, went up in there to the theater, pumped up, like, because you knew what it was about. It was going to be some sort of surprise. Captain America, Winter Soldier? Come on, bro. No one even expected that, but it was just OP, you know, and it was always like this sense of like real excitement, real energy, and quality as well. And I'll always remember that. I think we always will. But in the present time, I don't know, like, I'm just going to watch it for entertainment. It's like, okay, this is cool. Because, man, this story was, it was insane. Like, what's going on? Let me know. So that's my takeaway. The rating: 2 out of 5 redone black Ironheart suits. 2 out of 5. Again, I can't give it a 1 out of 5. It wasn't that bad, you know what I mean? I can't give it a 0 out of 5 like I did She-Hulk. I think I didn't even rate that, actually, or I gave it a negative score. She-Hulk, yeah, that was the actual rock bottom of the MCU, or how we should have known. But yeah, this gets a solid 2 out of 5. Good action. The cinematography was all there. The suit looked cool. When they did fight, it was nice. The music was good. But the bones of the story, the actual, what the story was and the main character, come on, man, y'all got to work with me. You got to. 2 out of 5. And that's it. The YouTube game, we never quit. YouTube is always present. It's always there. I'm always making YouTube videos. Next up, we have Fantastic Four. You know, I'm definitely going to see that. I'll probably see that in theaters. Why not? And video games, you know, I cover that on this channel as well. Legos, all that kind of stuff. So stick around. I'm making some more videos. Had to make this. Ironheart came out. So this is the truth, my true perspective for true believers about Ironheart. And until I see you on the next one, which will be soon, stay up. Peace.